Imagine sitting in a corporate boardroom.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. And sales have plummeted by like 50% over the last quarter.
Oh, wow. That is bad.
Yeah, it's catastrophic. I mean, bankruptcy is no longer this distant threat, you know. It's a looming reality. It could leave thousands of people unemployed.
So the stakes are incredibly high.
Exactly. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a knife. And yet you have these 7 highly educated, exceptionally well-paid executives, right? And they are currently spending an entire hour intensely debating whether the font color on the new company letterhead should be navy blue or charcoal gray.
Which is just, I mean, completely absurd.
Right. Why would intelligent human beings engage in such a spectacular display of cognitive dissonance?
Well, because there is a 5-ton, breathing, smelling animal sitting right in the middle of their boardroom.
Yes, and absolutely no one wants to be the first person to point at it.
It's a phenomenal image, isn't it? I mean, the sheer absurdity of it perfectly captures the lengths to which human beings will go to preserve a fragile sense of social harmony, even when the ship is actively sinking.
Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's deep dive. We have an incredibly fascinating mission ahead of us today, and it is entirely centered on you and your mastery of communication.
Yeah, and we are drawing from a really brilliant foundation today.
We are. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts from a lesson titled Wild at Heart, a guide to advanced animal idioms. And this comes to us from the Podzone's C2 Advanced English Listening Practice.
It's such a rich repository of linguistic anomalies. You know, it maps out this very specific quirk of human communication.
Exactly. And our mission today is to completely shift gears from our recent deep dives. I mean, we are moving away from the invisible, abstract world of human neurology.
Right. No more brain circuits today.
No more brain circuits. We are leaving behind the cold, hard logic of modern technology and artificial intelligence, too. Instead, we are stepping directly into the wild.
I love that.
We're going to explore how native English speakers constantly, bypass civilization and use the animal kingdom to map out our deepest human psychology.
Our most painful social awkwardness.
Yes, and our absolute most ruthless business tactics.
And if you look closely at the background visual we've set up for today's deep dive, you'll see it reflects exactly this duality.
Oh yeah, the visual's great.
You're right. We have this dense, untamed, overgrown jungle, and it's seamlessly merging into the sleek glass and steel geometry of a modern cityscape.
Like vines wrapping around skyscrapers.
Exactly. Vines wrapping around skyscrapers, so to speak. And this visual represents the core value of what we are doing for you today. Because mastering these vivid idioms, these deeply ingrained cultural metaphors, well, it isn't just about passing a vocabulary test.
No, definitely not.
It is the key to unlocking the absolute highest levels of the English language. It is the bridge between merely knowing the definitions of words and, actually speaking the underlying culture.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core premise we're working with here is absolutely fascinating.
It really is.
I mean, we aren't talking about biology today. We aren't taking a field trip to the zoo to study the mating habits of mammals, right?
Thankfully, no.
Yeah, no. We are looking at a linguistic phenomenon. The fact that the English language is thoroughly, almost pathologically obsessed with animals as a tool to describe our own distinctly human behaviors.
You use beasts and birds and fish to explain our own nature to ourselves.
What's fascinating here is the supreme irony of that linguistic habit.
Oh, the irony is massive.
Right. I mean, we consider ourselves to be so endlessly civilized.
We really do. We sit in our climate-controlled boardrooms.
We drink our artisanal coffee.
We wear tailored suits, and we follow these incredibly complex legal codes.
Yeah. Yet the very second we experience a highly charged emotion,
or the moment we find ourselves trapped in a deeply uncomfortable social situation.
Exactly. The language we reach for completely bypasses thousands of years of civilization. We instantly drop the intellectual jargon and we reach straight for the primal.
We revert right back to the mud.
We really do.
Yeah.
And honestly, there is no better place to start analyzing this than with the absolute absurdity of human politeness.
Oh, yeah.
And our almost comical inability to handle social disaster.
It is painful to watch sometimes.
It is. So let's step back into that boardroom we talked about at the very beginning. Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
This is widely considered one of the most essential, foundational, advanced idioms in the English language.
Absolutely.
It describes a massive, critically important, and highly uncomfortable problem that absolutely everyone in a given space is fully aware of.
But Out of some twisted, unspoken sense of politeness, they refuse to discuss it.
Right. And the durability of this idiom comes entirely from its visceral visual weight.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really pause and visualize the scenario being laid out.
Like, really picture it.
Yeah. You have a giant 5-ton leathery elephant.
And it smells.
It smells. It's an animal. And it's crammed into a normal-sized human living room or a corporate office.
It's physically taking up all the oxygen. I mean, you can't even walk to the water cooler without squeezing past its trunk.
Precisely. It is physically, logically, and emotionally impossible to ignore. Its sheer mass dominates every single aspect of the environment. And yet, what are the humans doing in this scenario?
They're politely sipping their tea.
They're staring at the ceiling tiles, adjusting their ties, and actively pretending the elephant simply does not exist.
It is a profound commentary on the sheer absurdity of human politeness. We are actively choosing to expend massive amounts of psychological energy to ignore a 5-ton reality.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
But why? I mean, if we step back and look at it objectively, it makes zero logical sense.
Not at all.
If there's a problem that large, the logical human response should be to solve it, not ignore it.
Right. You would think so. But we do it because the confrontation required to address the elephant is deemed, in the short term anyway, to be too socially awkward.
So it's about short-term comfort.
Exactly. We are wired as social creatures to avoid breaking the social contract of comfort. Confronting the massive issue forces everyone in the room to acknowledge a shared failure or, a shared danger or a shared embarrassment.
Like the example of a colleague's terrible behavior at a company holiday party the night before.
Oh, that is a perfect universal example.
Right. Let's say a mid-level manager had way too much to drink.
We've all seen it.
Yeah. They insult the CEO, they knock over a catering table, and they just make a complete fool of themselves.
Everyone saw it.
Everyone saw it. Everyone knows it happened. The entire dynamic of the office is shifted.
But at the Monday morning staff meeting,
nobody says a single word about it.
Not a peep.
They talk about the quarterly projections. They talk about the weather. They're walking around a massive social elephant.
And the really dangerous part is, the longer it goes unaddressed, the larger the elephant seems to grow.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, in a professional corporate setting, it's even more dangerous than just a bad party. Back to our boardroom. If sales are down 50% and the company is actively bleeding capital, that is an existential threat.
Right. People are going to lose their houses.
Yes. But acknowledging the impending bankruptcy means acknowledging that the leadership in that very room has failed.
And nobody wants to say, we failed.
Exactly. So instead of addressing the failure, the executives talk about the font color of the new logo. The idiom perfectly captures the psychological weight of unspoken truths.
The larger the unaddressed problem, the more exhausting it becomes for everyone to collectively maintain the illusion that everything is fine.
It creates a tremendous cognitive dissonance.
It really does. It's utterly exhausting. Now, I want to play with this idea a bit.
Sure, go for it.
If we imagine social etiquette, the way we interact with each other politely, as a very delicate, highly choreographed ballroom dance.
Okay, I like this.
Everyone knows the steps. Everyone knows the rhythm. Everyone knows exactly where to place their feet.
Very elegant.
Right. In that scenario, the elephant is a giant, gaping, dangerous hole right in the center of the dance floor.
Just a massive crater.
A crater. And everyone is awkwardly two-stepping around it, contorting their bodies to avoid falling in, maintaining a frozen smile on their face. But absolutely nobody is willing to stop the music and call the maintenance crew to fix the floor.
Because stopping the music ruins the party. That is exactly the psychology of avoidance.
But then we have the exact opposite reaction.
Right.
The complete and total inversion of the tea-sipping avoider. And that is the bull in a china shop.
Oh, yes.
This is the person who stomps right onto that delicate dance floor, completely ignores the rhythm of the music, and violently crushes everyone's toes.
The bull in a china shop is a magnificent counterpart to the elephant. It describes an individual who acts in a clumsy, tactless, and incredibly rough manner in a situation that strictly requires extreme delicacy, nuance, and emotional intelligence.
Like an HR manager who needs to lay someone off.
That's a great example.
I mean, firing an employee is a situation that requires tact. You are delivering life-altering, negative news.
You're taking away their livelihood.
Exactly. But instead of sitting them down and gently walking them through the transition, the manager just kicks open the door, yells across the bullpen, "Pack up your desk, you're done," and storms out.
Ouch.
Yeah, they're acting exactly like a bull in a china shop.
If we break down the components of the metaphor itself, china refers to fine, delicate, incredibly fragile porcelain cups, plates, and vases.
Right, this isn't sturdy everyday dinnerware.
No, not at all. It represents human feelings. It represents highly sensitive social situations, the delicate nature of a person's dignity when they're losing their job, or the fragile piece of a family gathering. Now introduce a massive, aggressive, wildly unpredictable 1,000-pound bull into that highly curated space.
Total disaster.
Yeah. The destruction is instantaneous. And the crucial thing to understand about this idiom is that the bull doesn't even necessarily have to be malicious.
Wait, really? The bull isn't trying to break things.
Not always. I mean, a bull doesn't understand the concept of a china shop. It doesn't know what porcelain is.
That makes sense.
It just exists as a large, clumsy animal. Just by turning around to look behind it, the bull's tail knocks over a priceless vase.
Oh, wow.
By shifting its weight, it crushes a tea set. In human terms, this translates to a failure to read the room.
It is a profound lack of situational awareness.
Exactly. The person might genuinely think they are just being straightforward or honest, but they completely fail to understand the emotional fragility of the environment they have walked into.
Okay, I see that. But I want to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
Or at least I want to challenge the purely negative framing of the bull that we usually see in language.
Interesting. Where are you going with this?
Well, we just spent a lot of time talking about how exhausting and ultimately dangerous it is to ignore the elephant in the room, right?
Yes, the sinking ship.
Like a company literally going bankrupt because nobody wants to be rude to the CEO. So could there be a scenario, a very specific moment, when a bull in a china shop is exactly what you need? Do you sometimes need someone to come in, absolutely smash the delicate teacups, break the awkward silence and scream, "Look at the giant elephant," just to force a stagnant group of people to finally acknowledge reality?
That is a highly provocative way to look at it. And it brings up an excellent nuance. You're suggesting that sometimes aggressive disruption is the only viable antidote to terminal politeness.
Yes, terminal politeness. I like that.
And you're absolutely right. In highly stagnant, toxic environments where the elephant is actively destroying the organization or the family anyway, well, a bull might be the necessary catalyst for change.
Like a whistleblower.
Exactly. The whistleblower who leaks the corporate documents is almost always viewed as a bull in a china shop by the executives.
Right, because they ruin the delicate peace to expose the truth.
However, we must remember that regardless of the bull's righteous intentions, the collateral damage is going to be severe.
True.
The china is still going to be shattered into 1,000 pieces. The emotional fallout, the hurt feelings, the burned bridges, those are inevitable. The idiom doesn't judge the necessity of the bull. It merely describes the totality of the destruction it leaves in its wake.
That makes perfect sense. The feelings will be hurt, the relationships will be fractured, and if you're the one who acts like a bull in a china shop, even if you truly believed you were doing the necessary right thing by calling out the elephant, the aftermath usually leaves you feeling incredibly isolated.
Oh, incredibly.
You look around at the broken porcelain and the angry faces, and you realize you have deeply alienated everyone around you. You suddenly realize that you do not fit in with this group anymore.
Which brings us to our next exploration of these idioms.
Yes, we are moving inward.
We are pivoting away from these external social actions, ignoring problems or breaking rules, and moving into the deep internal psychological feelings of displacement and identity.
We are talking about the unspoken rules of belonging.
Yes, this is a fascinating shift in the linguistic landscape. We are moving from how we behave in a room to how we feel within our own skin. And the first idiom we encounter here is the universal sensation of feeling like a fish out of water.
I feel incredibly confident saying that absolutely every single person listening to us right now has experienced this precise feeling at least once in their lives.
Oh, without a doubt.
Feeling like a fish out of water describes that overwhelming sensation of being completely awkward, deeply insecure, and entirely out of place in a new or unfamiliar environment.
And to truly appreciate the communicative power of this phrase, we cannot just look at it as a mild discomfort.
Right. It's not just feeling a little shy.
No, we have to look at the intense biological panic that is hardwired into the metaphor.
Biological panic. I love that phrasing.
Think about it. A fish belongs in the ocean, the river, or the lake. It is evolutionarily adapted to thrive perfectly in that specific liquid medium. Its gills extract oxygen from the water. Its fins navigate the currents.
It's a master of its domain.
Exactly. But if you pluck that fish out of the water and drop it onto dry, sun-baked grass, it isn't just feeling a little shy. It is in a state of absolute physiological panic. It literally cannot breathe.
It's not a social faux pas. It is an existential threat to its survival.
Exactly. It's an extreme, visceral image used by language to describe the psychological suffocation we feel when stripped of our native context.
Wow, suffocation.
When you are thrust into an environment where you do not know the unspoken rules, you do not understand the cultural language, you miss all the subtle social cues, and your normal skills are suddenly rendered completely useless, it genuinely feels like you cannot draw a full breath.
The real-world examples of this are so highly relatable. I mean, imagine a young adult who grew up in a tiny, quiet farming village.
Okay, setting the scene.
A place where everyone knows everyone's name. The pace of life is dictated by the sun. The loudest noise is a tractor,
Very peaceful.
Very peaceful. Then, overnight, they move to the very center of Manhattan.
Oh, boy. Right.
The overwhelming concrete, the deafening sirens, the sheer unrelenting speed of the pedestrians. They are entirely a fish out of water. Every instinct they have is wrong for this new environment.
It's complete sensory overload.
Or, to look at a more professional context, imagine a tenured history professor. Someone who spent 40 years surrounded by quiet library stacks, analyzing ancient Roman texts, speaking in measured academic tones.
A very specific ecosystem.
Suddenly, due to some administrative mix-up, they are dropped into the middle of a chaotic, high-tech Silicon Valley coding convention.
Oh, that poor professor.
Right, the neon lights, the frantic energy, the barrage of acronyms they don't understand. I mean, the jargon alone would make them feel like they are suffocating on dry land.
And what is critically important to understand about the psychology of this idiom is that the fish itself is not fundamentally broken.
That's a great point.
It's not flawed or incompetent. The fish is a perfectly designed, highly capable creature, as long as it is in the water.
Right.
The history professor is a brilliant, widely respected intellectual, as long as he is in the library. This idiom beautifully highlights that our sense of competence, our confidence, and our comfort are heavily, inextricably dependent on our surrounding environment.
We are context-dependent creatures.
Very much so.
But what happens when the environment that is suffocating you isn't a new megacity you just moved to?
Okay.
Or a strange tech conference you were forced to attend? What happens when the environment you feel completely out of place in is your own home? The place you were born? This brings us to a much darker, more complicated family dynamic. The black sheep.
This is a profound conceptual pivot.
It really is.
Because while feeling like a fish out of water describes someone experiencing alienation in a new environment, being the black sheep describes someone who is an outcast in their native environment.
That hurts so much more.
It does. The black sheep of the family is a person who is widely considered by their own relatives to be a rebel, an outcast, a troublemaker, or even a profound embarrassment, simply because they consistently refuse to follow the family's traditional rules, career paths, or social expectations.
So imagine an entire sprawling family of highly conservative, wealthy doctors and corporate lawyers.
The pressure must be immense.
Right. Generation after generation, everyone goes to medical school or law school. It is expected. It is the rule. But then one child decides they have absolutely no interest in medicine.
They break the chain.
They drop out of university, buy a drum set, and declare they are going to become a heavy metal musician.
Oh, the Thanksgiving dinners would be tense.
Unbearable. Or perhaps they refuse to join the immensely lucrative family real estate business to become a struggling avant-garde painter. To the rest of the family, that person is proudly, defiantly the black sheep.
To understand why this specific animal metaphor was chosen centuries ago, we have to look at the historical and economic realities of the wool trade.
Wait, really? It goes back to actual wool economics?
No, absolutely. It's fascinating. In a massive flock of hundreds of identical, docile white sheep, a single black sheep stands out immediately.
You literally can't hide it.
Exactly. It physically breaks the visual uniformity of the flock. But more importantly, from a historical agricultural perspective, black wool was considered significantly less valuable than white wool.
Why is that? Wool's wool, isn't it? I mean, it keeps you just as warm.
It does keep you just as warm, but the economic value of white wool came from its versatility. White wool can be dyed.
Oh.
It can be turned crimson red, deep blue, bright yellow. Black wool, however, already has a dominant pigmentation. It could not be dyed using traditional historical methods. It refused to take on new colors.
Oh, wow. Okay, if we apply that to the psychology of human families, That is heavy.
Let's follow that thread. Think about what the act of dyeing wool actually represents in a metaphorical sense.
It represents control.
Exactly. It represents the power of the owner to mold, change, and force the raw material into whatever shape or color they desire. White wool is economically valuable because it is entirely compliant.
It just takes whatever color you put on it.
Right. It surrenders its identity and takes whatever color society forces upon it. Black wool is deeply stubborn. It firmly retains its inherent original identity regardless of what harsh chemicals or dyes you try to soak it in.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When we link the agricultural economics of the 16th century to the psychological reality of modern family dynamics, it explains the tension perfectly.
It's a perfect mapping.
Social groups, and families in particular, inherently value conformity. They want members who can be easily molded or dyed to fit the family's traditional expectations to uphold the family reputation.
The family demands compliance.
Right. The black sheep, however, represents an undyeable reality. They cannot be forced into the pre-approved mold of the doctor or the lawyer, and because they cannot be controlled, because they refuse to take the dye. The family labels them as less valuable, as a failure, or as an embarrassment.
It's tragic, really.
It is. So if I can offer an analogy here to put these two concepts side by side.
Please do.
Feeling like a fish out of water is fundamentally a condition of geography and placement. It's about changing your environment and suddenly realizing, oh no, I do not fit here.
You are the one who moved.
Exactly. You took yourself out of the water. But being the black sheep is fundamentally a condition of inherent identity. It's about staying exactly where you were born, staying in your native environment, surrounded by the people who raised you, and slowly realizing, wait a minute, this environment doesn't fit me.
That is a remarkably sharp distinction.
The fish desperately wants to go back to the familiar water. But the black sheep has no water to go back to. This is their home. They just have to learn to own their black wool, even if a flock rejects them.
The fish out of water is desperately seeking a return to comfort and competence. The black sheep is asserting their autonomy at the cost of their comfort.
Well said.
But in both of these scenarios, the internal feeling of alienation is profound. Yet as we analyze the complex dynamics of human families and tight-knit social groups, we have to acknowledge that while there are often strict, suffocating expectations, there is usually some foundational underlying bond.
Right. There's a baseline expectation of fundamental care, even for the rebel.
Exactly. The family might judge the heavy metal drummer, they might whisper about them behind their back, but at the end of the day, the black sheep is still usually invited to sit at the table for Thanksgiving dinner.
There's a safety net of blood.
Usually, yes. The flock still recognizes the sheep. But what happens when you decide to leave the family unit entirely?
Oh, things change fast.
What happens when you leave the polite, awkward social gatherings, you step off the dance floor, and you enter a completely different ecosystem?
An environment where the normal rules of politeness, the desire for belonging, and those familial safety nets completely and totally vanish.
Exactly.
Oh, this is where the deep dive gets genuinely ruthless. We are moving out of the living room and stepping straight into the savage ecosystem of the corporate world.
It gets dark here.
We are looking at fiercely competitive business, high finance, and unbridled ambition. And the language native English speakers use to describe this arena does not hold back. The first idiom we use to describe this environment is remarkably dark. Dog eat dog.
Dog eat dog. It's a highly evocative, slightly disturbing adjective.
It really is.
It is used to describe an environment that is ruthlessly, unapologetically competitive. We are not talking about friendly workplace rivalries here.
Not at all.
We are talking about a world where individuals are actively, consciously willing to harm, sabotage, undermine, or deeply betray one another in order to achieve personal success.
You hear this used constantly to describe fields like high-level investment banking, cutthroat corporate law, or high-stakes commercial real estate.
The high-pressure zones.
Right. You can easily imagine a hardened, veteran senior partner pulling a brand-new, naive college graduate aside on their first day and warning them, forget everything you learned about teamwork in school. You need to hoard your clients, hide your data, and constantly watch your back.
Welcome to the real world.
Exactly. Normal human politeness does not exist on this trading floor. It is a dog-eat-dog world.
It is pure, unfiltered survival of the fittest.
It violently strips away all the delicate veneer of civilization we talked about earlier. Remember the tea-sipping executives ignoring the elephant?
Yeah, that's gone.
In a dog-eat-dog world, if there is an elephant in the room, someone is going to try to kill it and sell the ivory.
Wow. That's bleak, but accurate. If we connect this to the bigger picture of the linguistic landscape we are mapping out today, we start to see a very cohesive, albeit terrifying, ecosystem emerge. In this aggressive dog-eat-dog environment, you have all these predators, these ambitious executives and bankers constantly fighting, betraying their colleagues, and frantically scrambling over each other to climb the corporate ladder.
It's exhausting.
But it begs the question, what exactly are they fighting for?
Right. Why do this to yourselves?
What is the ultimate coveted prize in the center of the corporate jungle that makes all this savagery worthwhile? The ultimate prize is securing a cash cow.
The cash cow. This is widely considered one of the most brilliant, perfectly descriptive business idioms ever coined.
It really paints a picture.
It does. To understand it, we just have to look at an actual, literal dairy cow on a farm. A good, healthy dairy cow does one thing incredibly well. It produces milk reliably, predictably, every single day for years on end.
Rain or shine.
And crucially, for our metaphor, it requires very little effort or maintenance from the farmer. You don't have to train it. You don't have to hunt it. It just stands passively in the field, eats grass, and consistently generates extreme value.
So when we seamlessly map that agricultural reality onto the modern business world, a cash cow refers to a specific product, a service, or a division of a massive company that consistently generates a massive, highly dependable stream of pure profit.
The golden goose, essentially.
Exactly. And that profit is so significantly large and so effortlessly generated that it ends up funding all of the business's other, far more risky experimental ventures.
Think of a massive global technology giant.
Okay, I have one in mind.
Right. Their hardware division might be incredibly risky. Their new smartphone models might require billions of dollars in research and development every single year. They might try to build virtual reality headsets that completely flop and lose billions.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. But they also have a basic software subscription service, say it's cloud storage. Millions of users all over the world automatically pay $10 a month, every single month via autopay, without ever even thinking about it.
It's just a background expense.
Exactly. That cloud storage division requires almost zero new innovation. It just sits there, quietly producing millions and millions of dollars every single day. That is the ultimate cash cow.
What I find so psychologically compelling here is the stark contrast between these two adjacent idioms.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, you have the dog-eat-dog environment. Frantic, aggressive, hyper-competitive, filled with predators constantly attacking each other and operating on high adrenaline.
Right, pure chaos.
On the other hand, you have the cash cow. Completely passive, docile, slow-moving, reliable, just steadily producing milk in the sun.
That is funny.
The profound irony of the corporate ecosystem is that all of these vicious, highly educated, ruthless predators are tearing each other to pieces, working 80-hour weeks just to secure ownership of a gentle, grass-eating asset.
Wow.
All of that intense predatory aggression is ultimately entirely in service of acquiring passive comfort.
That is such a wild, almost absurd image when you really visualize it. A pack of vicious, bloodthirsty wolves wearing tailored suits, viciously fighting each other to the death over the right to milk a dairy cow.
It belongs in a surrealist painting.
It really does.
Yeah.
But let's play this out. Let's say one of the wolves actually wins the fight. Let's say a specific company or a very ambitious executive successfully conquers the market and secures the cash cow.
Okay.
What happens to the milk? Human nature dictates that they certainly don't share it equally with the rest of the pack. They want what we call the lion's share.
The lion's share. This introduces a very strict, unforgiving hierarchy into our metaphorical jungle.
Right.
If we look at the natural world, human culture has almost universally recognized the lion as the apex predator, the undisputed king of the jungle.
At the top of the food chain.
When a pride of lions works together to hunt down prey and make a kill, the social structure is rigid. The biggest, strongest, dominant male lion steps up to the carcass first. He eats first, and he eats as much prime meat as he possibly desires.
He's not measuring portions.
No, not at all. Only after he is completely gorged and satisfied is anyone else in the pride even allowed to approach what is left.
He doesn't take an equitable 50%.
Yeah.
He doesn't calculate fair shares based on who ran the fastest during the hunt. He takes absolutely everything he wants, and whatever meager scraps happen to be left over, the rest of the pride can fight over.
Therefore, in human communication, taking the lion's share means taking the absolute largest, most substantial, and most valuable portion of something, leaving only a fraction for everyone else. In a corporate context, it perfectly reflects how power dynamics and wealth distribution operate around the cash cow. Think about a standard corporate group project.
Oh, this hits close to home for a lot of people.
You have a team of 5 junior analysts who spend 3 grueling weeks pulling all-nighters, doing all the complex math, building the spreadsheets, and doing the actual heavy lifting.
Doing all the work, basically.
Yeah. Doing all the work. But the senior partner, who merely spent 10 minutes presenting the final slideshow to the board of directors, receives all the public praise, the promotion, and the massive end-of-year bonus. The senior partner took the lion's share of the credit, leaving the analyst with scraps.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Or, to look at it from a financial perspective, imagine a highly publicized charity gala.
Okay.
They raised $10 million for a noble cause. But when you look at the accounting, you realize that the exorbitant administrative fees, the event planning costs, and the massive executive salaries of the charity board eat up the lion's share of the donations.
That's heartbreaking.
Right. Only 10% actually makes it to the cause they were ostensibly fighting for. It's all about who holds the power at the very top of the food chain.
Exactly.
But I want to pause here because something about this ecosystem feels unstable to me.
Unstable? How do you mean?
I want to ask a probing question based on exactly how we just defined the cash cow. We said a cash cow requires very little effort or maintenance. It's reliable. It's fundamentally passive.
Yes, that's the definition.
So if a company is existing in this ruthless, dog-eat-dog world where only the absolute strongest, most paranoid predators survive, doesn't finding a cash cow actually destroy the very survival of the fittest drive that got them to the top in the first place?
Oh, that's interesting. Walk me through your logic there. How does success destroy the drive?
Well, if a company invents a product that just effectively prints money every single day without the company having to try very hard anymore, wouldn't the entire organization inevitably stop innovating?
Ah, the comfort trap.
Exactly. Wouldn't the executives become lazy, complacent, and bloated? They get so incredibly used to effortlessly drinking the milk from the cash cow that they literally forget how to hunt. They lose their edge.
But they get slow.
Right. And suddenly, because they're asleep at the wheel, another hungry, desperate dog in the dog-eat-dog world comes along with a slightly better, highly innovative product and completely destroys them. It seems to me that the ultimate prize, the cash cow, is actually a psychological trap that makes the dominant predator vulnerable.
That is a remarkably astute piece of strategic business analysis. And if you look at modern economic history, it is entirely accurate.
It happens all the time, right?
It does. We have seen massive, globally dominant monopolies rely entirely on their cash cow for decades, whether it was physical film photography in the 1990s or brick-and-mortar video rentals in the early 2000s.
Oh, perfect examples.
Because they felt financially invincible. Because the milk kept flowing. They lost their competitive edge. They lost the paranoid dog-eat-dog urgency that is required to survive technological shifts. Your point elegantly highlights the inherent danger of extreme success in a volatile, changing environment. Complacency is lethal.
Right. And the truth is, modern executives are terrified of exactly what we are talking about.
They lose sleep over it.
They know they've grown soft. They're terrified of losing the lion's share of the market profits.
Right.
And because they live in this state of underlying paranoia, when they finally notice a tiny, seemingly insignificant threat to their cash cow, they tend to panic.
Panic is never good.
Never. Instead of thinking strategically, they blindly rush in to fix minor problems as fast as they possibly can, hoping to maintain the status quo. But as we are about to see in our next set of idioms, rushing to fix a small issue in a state of panic can lead to absolutely catastrophic, uncontainable consequences.
Which brings us to the final psychological landscape of our deep dive today.
The grand finale.
The profound consequences of human mistakes, the sheer futility of our impatience, and how we attempt to clean up our own chaos.
Exactly. We are looking at what happens when actions spiral completely out of our control, and the vivid, almost grotesque ways the English language captures these disasters.
Let's start with a scenario where someone makes a tiny mistake that suddenly explodes into an unmanageable crisis. Let's talk about opening a can of worms.
To open a can of worms.
The imagery here is not polite. It is not delicate like a china shop. It is intentionally visceral, slightly disgusting, and deeply effective.
It really makes you squirm, pun intended.
Yes. I want you to imagine a fisherman sitting on a dock holding a small, tightly sealed cylindrical metal can.
The kind you have to pry open with a tool.
Precisely. It is hermetically sealed. Inside that dark can is a densely packed, writhing mass of live, squirming, slippery earthworms.
Gross.
As long as that metal lid remains tightly secured, the worms are completely contained. The situation is neat. It is a single, easily manageable object you can hold in one hand.
Safe and clean.
But the very moment you pry off that lid, the entire dynamic changes. The worms instantly spill out over the edges. They squirm, they tangle, they fall onto the floor, they move in a dozen different unpredictable directions.
You can't control them.
And the absolute most crucial element of this metaphor is this physical reality. Once they are out, it is physically practically impossible to gather every single wriggling worm and stuff them all back into that tiny metal can.
Once the seal is broken, the chaos is permanent. You cannot unexpose them. You cannot put the lid back on and pretend it never happened.
Idiomatically, this perfectly encapsulates the deeply frustrating nature of complex, systemic human problems. To say someone opened a can of worms means they attempted to solve one minor, seemingly simple, localized problem. But in the process of poking around, they accidentally pulled a loose thread that unraveled a massive, messy, uncontrollable set of deeply connected secondary problems that they are now entirely responsible for dealing with.
The realm of politics, law, and investigative journalism is where this phrase truly shines.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine a mid-level investigative reporter at a local newspaper. She is looking into a very minor, incredibly routine tax filing error made by a boring local city councilman.
It's just a standard piece of journalism.
Right. It looks like a simple math typo on a form. That typo is a sealed metal can. But as she starts making phone calls, as she pries off the lid to fix the math, she suddenly discovers that this tiny tax error is actually a deliberate accounting trick. And that trick connects to a massive international money laundering scheme involving millions of dollars, corrupt judges, and highly dangerous criminal syndicates.
Wow.
She thought she was fixing a boring typo, but she just opened a massive, life-altering can of worms. The situation has spiraled entirely beyond her initial scope.
And this is exactly where the crushing weight of futility sets in. Because once you open that proverbial can, you cannot walk away. You might spend the next 6 months or even years of your life frantically trying to untangle the massive mess you just uncovered.
It takes over your life.
But what if your frantic efforts to fix the mess are completely useless?
That's a terrifying thought.
What if the solution you are desperately running after is an illusion? What if the damage cannot be repaired, but you refuse to accept it? This is where the language introduces us to the exhausting concept of the wild goose chase.
A wild goose chase. Now, before we even break down the mechanics of this, there is a truly fascinating piece of the linguistic history here.
Oh, I love the history behind this one.
This specific idiom was actually coined by William Shakespeare.
It's amazing, isn't it?
He used it in Romeo and Juliet, which I think is a profound reminder of just how deeply and how long these animal metaphors have been hardwired into our collective consciousness. We have been using animals to describe our failures for centuries.
This raises an important question, though, if we analyze the imagery. Out of all the fast, elusive animals Shakespeare could have chosen to represent a chase.
Right, like a rabbit.
A rabbit, a deer, a fox. Why specifically a wild goose?
Why a goose?
Well, if you look at the mechanics of the phrase, trying to catch a wild goose by physically running after it through an open field is a profoundly exhausting, highly disorganized, and inherently foolish endeavor for a human being.
Well, yeah.
Why? Because while you are frantically sprinting on 2 legs, tripping over the grass and running out of breath, the bird simply spreads its wings and flies away into the sky.
It's almost comical. You are physically bound to the earth by gravity, and the target of your pursuit has wings. The physics of the chase guarantee your failure. You are never, ever going to catch it.
Exactly. The pursuit is structurally rigged against you from the very first step.
Wow.
Therefore, metaphorically, a wild goose chase is a hopeless, highly frustrating, and completely useless search for something that either does not exist at all or is fundamentally impossible for you to obtain. It is the expenditure of massive amounts of energy for absolutely zero reward.
To bring this out of the 16th century and ground it in a modern, relatable reality, imagine a frantic corporate manager.
Okay, picture painted.
A massive legal audit is happening. The manager runs into the office and tells a team of junior employees, I need you to drop everything you are doing and find the physical, original paper copy of a vendor contract from 1995. Our entire defense depends on it.
Oh, the panic.
The team panics. They spend 3 grueling, stressful days doing nothing else. They are digging through dark, dusty basement filing cabinets. They're making dozens of calls to off-site storage facilities. They are skipping lights.
It's absolute chaos.
It is an exhausting, high-stress endeavor. And then, at the end of the 3rd day, a senior archivist calmly informs them that all physical documents drafted before the year 2000 were legally shredded, incinerated, and destroyed over a decade ago.
Oof. The contract literally did not exist in the physical universe.
Go on.
Every ounce of energy expended by that team over those 3 days was completely, entirely wasted.
It is the ultimate soul-crushing feeling of futility. You ran as fast as you could, and the goose simply wasn't there.
It really is.
So if we look at the psychological progression of disaster we've just mapped out,
Yeah, let's track it.
it starts with impatience. You act without thinking, you casually open a can of worms, and suddenly chaos erupts. Then, in a blind panic to fix the chaos, you spend 3 days exhausting yourself on a completely useless wild goose chase.
It's a cascade of bad decisions.
Exactly. How do we prevent this cascade of failure? What is the antidote to all this chaotic, destructive, forward momentum?
Well, the English language gives us one final commanding phrase to stop the madness before it begins.
And what is that?
Hold your horses.
Hold your horses. It is the ultimate visceral call for human patience.
Let's analyze the intense physical and kinetic imagery embedded in this command. Picture a heavy wooden carriage being pulled by a team of 4 massive, incredibly powerful draft horses.
That's a lot of weight.
A lot of weight. The horses are at a full, terrifying gallop down a dirt road. There is immense, dangerous physical momentum at play.
Right.
If the human driver sitting on the carriage suddenly realizes there is a cliff ahead and wants to stop, or even just slightly slow down, they cannot just politely ask the horses to pause.
Excuse me, horses, can we slow down?
No. Exactly. They cannot negotiate with the momentum. They have to physically grab the heavy leather reins and pull back toward their chest with every ounce of physical strength they possess. It requires a forceful, aggressive application of counterpressure to stop that forward momentum from carrying them over the edge.
So idiomatically, when we use this phrase today, it retains that sense of urgency and force.
Very much so.
When you see a friend or a colleague rushing around in a panic, acting completely impulsively, maybe they are highly emotional, maybe they're acting like a bull in a china shop, and they are seconds away from making a massive, life-altering mistake.
You have to intervene.
You don't just politely suggest they wait. You look them directly in the eye and give them this informal but highly firm command. Hold your horses.
You are telling them to forcefully pull back on their own psychological reins, to aggressively slow down their racing thoughts, to be patient, and to stop rushing blindly into a decision that will ruin them.
Think about a highly practical, everyday scenario. You are apartment hunting in a highly competitive city.
Oh, that's stressful enough.
You walk into a place, you fall in love with the view, and the real estate agent tells you there are 5 other people waiting outside. You panic.
FOMO sets in.
You pull out your pen, ready to sign the legally binding lease right there on the kitchen counter without reading a single word.
Don't do it.
Right. But your pragmatic friend grabs your arm and says, I know you want to lock this down right now, but hold your horses. We haven't checked the water pressure, we haven't looked at the neighborhood crime rates, and we haven't even read the fine print about the hidden fees.
It is a vital intervention against human impulse.
But what does this all mean when we synthesize it? I want to pull all of these threads together for you, the listener, with a little overarching analogy.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you find yourself facing a highly complicated, delicate situation in life, opening a can of worms is the critical, impulsive mistake you make when you don't understand the complexity.
Yes.
The wild goose chase is the desperate, exhausting, and entirely useless attempt you make to clean up the chaos of that mistake.
Spot on.
And holding your horses is the invaluable grounding advice you absolutely should have taken before you ever reached out to touch the can in the first place.
That is a flawless summary of the cause and effect relationship embedded in our psychology, told entirely through the lens of animal metaphors. It functions as a complete cautionary tale about human hubris, impulsivity, and regret.
It really is an incredible journey. We have navigated an absolute safari of English vocabulary today.
We really have.
We managed to get through it without getting trampled by the ignored elephant. We survived the dog-eat-dog corporate bloodbath. And we didn't exhaust ourselves chasing the goose.
A very successful trip into the wild.
And now, as we wrap up this deep dive, it is time to bring these abstract linguistic concepts directly back down to earth and apply them to your own life.
Because knowledge, especially linguistic knowledge, is only truly valuable when it is deeply understood and practically applied. If you want to permanently lock these advanced concepts into your active vocabulary, you cannot just memorize the academic definitions we've discussed, you have to weave them into the narrative of your own existence. The most effective way to do this is to use these idioms to frame your own personal history.
Exactly. Connect the vocabulary to your own emotional memory. I want to pose 2 direct questions to you right now as you listen to this.
Go ahead.
Think back over the timeline of your own life. Have you ever truly felt like a fish out of water? Have you ever been dropped into a new city, forced into a new job, or invited into a complex new social circle where you felt completely alienated, socially suffocated, and entirely panicked?
If you have, ask yourself, what were the specific rules of that new environment that you didn't understand? And more importantly, how did you eventually learn to adapt your gills and breathe in that new, terrifying space?
Or consider the inverse scenario. Have you ever been sitting in a tense room where you were forced to be the one brave enough to finally point at the elephant in the room?
While absolutely everyone else was staring at the ceiling and sipping their tea.
Exactly, where your hand's shaking. Did the confrontation actually save the company or the family, or did you just end up feeling like a destructive bull in a china shop?
Grappling with those deeply personal questions is exactly how you internalize the nuances of the language. And please remember, learning to articulate these highly complex, abstract social dynamics is a lifelong journey. It is not a race. You do not have to conquer the entire linguistic jungle in a single afternoon.
Absolutely. You just have to keep moving forward, expanding your understanding one metaphor at a time.
One metaphor at a time.
But before we let you go today, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to mull over, something that builds on the very foundation of everything we have explored in our deep dive today.
Lay it on us.
We just spent this entire hour analyzing how we as humans describe our absolute most highly evolved, incredibly complex modern achievements. We are talking about the intricate legal frameworks of international political corruption. We are talking about the macroeconomic structures of multi-billion-dollar software subscriptions. We are talking about high-speed, algorithmic investment banking and the rigid, nuanced hierarchies of massive corporate structures.
These are, objectively, the peak creations of advanced human civilization.
They are the things that supposedly separate us from the beasts.
Supposedly.
And yet, when it comes time to explain how these key creations actually function on a day-to-day basis, we find our highly educated vocabularies entirely insufficient.
We do.
We completely bypass human logic. We discard our own intellect, and we instinctively reach back into the mud to utilize the primal, unpolished, visceral, savage behaviors of the animal kingdom.
It's a humbling reality.
It is. So the question I want to leave you with is this. Does our deep, inescapable, universal reliance on animal idioms suggest that despite all of our modern technology, our shining glass skyscrapers, our tailored suits, and our endlessly complex corporate ladders, human society hasn't actually evolved past the ruthless rules of the jungle at all?
Are we really just apex predators wearing expensive suits to hide our fur?
Exactly. Next time you're sitting in a quiet, highly civilized boardroom, take a second to look around at the people at the table, because I guarantee you, the linguistic jungle is right there in the room, just waiting to break out.
It's a jungle out there.
It really is. Until next time, keep diving deep.
You know, usually when we invent a tool to do a highly complex job, the language we use to describe it is just incredibly technical.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about it. We talk about algorithmic trading or neural networks, quantum computing, biometric encryption.
Right, all very clinical terms.
Exactly. The words we choose are sterile. They're precise. They operate on this binary logic that feels, well, completely detached from human emotion.
It's a very clinical way of speaking, yeah. I mean, we build these massive complex systems, and we desperately want them to sound sophisticated.
We want to sound smart.
We do. We want to feel like we have mastered the universe through sheer categorization and intellectual rigor.
But then you look at the absolute most complex, unpredictable, and frankly chaotic machine on the face of the earth, the human mind.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly our vocabulary completely shifts. When we need to describe our deepest psychological states, our worst conflicts, or our most brilliant strategic moves, we drop the technical jargon.
We really do.
We completely abandon the microchips and the algorithms, and we go straight back to the barnyard.
It is the absolute definition of a linguistic paradox. I mean, the more technologically advanced our society gets, the more deeply we rely on this wild jungle of animal metaphors to explain our own behavior.
It's so true.
We can map the human genome, but when someone lies to us, we don't talk about their synaptic misfires. We talk about rats.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are going on a serious expedition today, and our mission is to decode a highly specific C2 level tier of advanced English idioms from our source material.
It's going to be a fun one.
We're going to figure out exactly what farm animals, wild predators, and household pests reveal about human trust, conflict, and productivity.
There's so much packed in there.
And whether you are currently navigating a maze of vicious office politics or dealing with a highly dramatic friend who just drains all your energy, or maybe you're just trying to get your own life and ambitious goals organized, this deep dive is going to give you the precise native level vocabulary to accurately describe the reality of your situation.
And, as we unpack this, you'll see my backdrop today is actually reflecting this exact intersection.
I was going to mention that. It looks amazing.
Thanks. I've set up this lush, slightly abstract, overgrown jungle environment. But if you look closely, the leaves and vines are actually overlaid with these crisp, vintage dictionary pages.
I love that visual.
Because that is exactly where we are living for the next hour. We are right on the jagged border between primal, evolutionary animal instinct and refined, highly structured human communication.
Okay, let's unpack this. I feel like we have to start with the most primal human instinct of all, right? Survival.
Oh, absolutely. The root of everything.
But in modern society, survival rarely means outrunning a physical predator on the savannah. Today, survival means knowing who to trust.
Right. It's social survival.
Exactly. It means navigating social and financial landscapes without getting destroyed by someone else's hidden agenda.
Deception is just a constant in human interaction. It always has been. And what's fascinating here is that we don't begin our defense against deception with logical deduction.
We don't.
No, we really don't start with a spreadsheet or a background check. We start with a visceral, almost involuntary physical reaction. We start with the instinct to smell a rat.
Oh, man. Think about the pure intuition required there.
It's intense.
To smell a rat means to suspect deceit or a scam, or that someone is actively trying to manipulate you without having a single shred of concrete physical proof.
Right, there's no evidence yet.
Just imagine you are sitting across from a salesman. He is offering you a brand new top-of-the-line car for exactly half the normal market price.
Which never happens.
Exactly. On paper, it's just a contract. The math is right there in black and white. But inside your brain, an alarm is blaring so loudly you can barely hear his pitch.
Your body's telling you something is wrong.
I always think of intuition like a smoke detector in your house. It goes off before you even see the fire.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
You don't have visual proof of the flames, but the alarm is just screaming at you.
I love that analogy, but let's take it even deeper into the biology of the idiom itself. Notice the specific sensory choice we use here.
Right.
We don't say we see a rat. We don't say we hear a rat. We smell it.
Huh. Yeah, that's true.
Historically, rats were inextricably associated with disease, with filth, with the bubonic plague.
They were the ultimate invisible threat.
Exactly. They were the unseen pestilence hiding deep in the damp shadows of human settlements, underneath the floorboards or inside the walls.
Right. Like a dog or a cat doesn't need to visually confirm the rat is in the barn.
They don't.
Their olfactory senses entirely bypass their visual limitations. They just lock onto the scent of the pest.
And biologically speaking, smell is our most primal sense as humans too. The olfactory bulb routes directly to the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Yeah, that's the emotional threat processing center of the brain. It does not go through the logical, rational, prefrontal cortex first.
Wow.
That is a massive neurological reality. When you smell a rat in a business deal, your brain is doing the exact same thing a terrier does in a barn.
That is wild.
It is picking up on microscopic data points before your conscious mind can even organize them.
Wait, let me push back on that a second.
Sure.
Are we really just talking about animal instinct? Because human intuition can be wildly flawed.
Oh, completely.
Sometimes we smell a rat just because, I don't know, we have an unconscious bias against the person.
Oh?
Or maybe we just had a bad cup of coffee that morning and we're acting paranoid.
That's a crucial distinction, and you're totally right to challenge it. It's not magic. It's rapid pattern recognition.
Okay.
When that salesman pitches you the half-price car, your primal brain is detecting micro-expressions. It's noticing a slight unnatural hesitation in his vocal cadence.
Things you don't even realize you're seeing.
Exactly. It's picking up on pupil dilation, or a tiny detail in his timeline that doesn't perfectly align with human behavioral norms.
So it's processing data.
Yes. Your rational brain hasn't processed the terms of the contract yet, but your amygdala has already detected the shadow under the floorboards.
Yeah.
It's a deeply animalistic reaction to complex human deception.
So it's an entirely gut-driven defense mechanism. You can't point to the flaw in the engine block yet, but you just know the filth of the scam is lingering in the room.
Beautifully put.
But here is the problem with intuition. You can't just walk away from every single complicated situation in life based purely on a hunch.
You really can't.
You can't cancel a corporate merger or end a 10-year friendship because your amygdala twitched.
No, that would be chaos.
At some point, you have to transition from that gut feeling of suspicion to actually verifying the cold, hard truth. Which brings us to the next phase of our survival strategy.
Right.
Once your internal alarm goes off, how do you actually find the truth? You don't rely on rumors, you go straight from the horse's mouth.
This is one of the most mechanically literal idioms we have in the English language, and I just think it's brilliant.
It's very aggressive, honestly.
It is. To get information straight from the horse's mouth means intentionally bypassing all the middlemen, ignoring the gossip, rejecting the secondary sources, and extracting the facts directly from the absolute most authoritative source available.
The imagery here is incredibly vivid, but it's also highly physical if you think about what it actually entails.
Oh, absolutely.
Back in the day when you were buying a horse, you couldn't trust a single word the seller said about the animal's age or its health.
Never.
Horse sellers were the archetypal scammers of the 18th and 19th centuries. They had every financial incentive to lie right to your face.
They were basically the used car salesman of the agrarian era.
Yes. So you had to act. You had to physically pry open this massive, powerful, unpredictable animal's jaw, literally risking getting your fingers snapped off.
Which is terrifying.
Just to physically inspect the wear and tear on its teeth.
Because the teeth don't lie. A horse's teeth grow and wear down in a very specific, predictable biological pattern.
It's pure evidence.
It is the ultimate historical act of critical thinking and empirical fact verification. Think about the context of trade and deception throughout all of human history.
That's a long history.
The seller represents the rumor mill. The seller represents the modern corporate PR department spinning a highly curated narrative.
Right.
Opening the horse's mouth is an act of profound defiance against that spin. You are looking the seller in the eye and saying, I reject your curated narrative, and I am going to seek the empirical truth with my own two hands.
But look at how sanitized our pursuit of truth has become today.
Oh, it's completely different.
The origin of this phrase requires you to literally put your hands on a beast. You have to smell its breath, feel the heat radiating off its muscles, and look at the undeniable physical evidence.
Very visceral.
Contrast that with how we operate now.
Yeah.
Today, if we suspect a company is doing layoffs, what do? We scroll.
We check our phones.
We read a fragmented thread on an anonymous forum. We check a Slack channel where people are just trading paranoid guesses. It's entirely detached.
It is detached and, well, it's cowardly.
Wow, cowardly.
I think so. We prefer secondary sources because confronting the primary source is terrifying. It carries social risk.
That's true.
If you hear rumors that your company is closing its doors, you could spend 3 weeks agonizing over break room whispers.
Which people do all the time.
All the time. Or you could bypass all of it, walk directly into the CEO's office and ask the question. You metaphorically pry open the jaw of the corporation.
But nobody wants to be the one to do that. It's career-threatening.
Exactly. It takes immense courage, just like it took courage to open a strange horse's mouth.
You could get bitten in both scenarios.
Exactly. But confronting the reality head-on is the only way to silence the exhausting anxiety that started the moment you first smelled the rat. You are actively transitioning from the passive, paralyzing anxiety of suspicion into the active, commanding pursuit of truth.
Okay, so we've established how to catch a shadowy scammer, and we've talked about the courage required to bypass rumors.
Right.
But what happens when the threat isn't a shadow? What if the person you are dealing with isn't some anonymous rumor mill, but a chronic, habitual liar sitting right in the cubicle next to you?
Ah, the drama creators.
What if they are the ones actively, purposefully generating the chaos? This brings us to a concept that explores the devastating long-term psychological cost of deception. Crying wolf.
to cry wolf. This takes us entirely out of the barnyard and plunges us deep into ancient folklore, specifically the fables of Aesop.
A classic.
It describes a person who deliberately raises a false alarm, who screams for help, or dramatically complains about a danger that absolutely does not exist.
And what's the result?
The inevitable consequence of this behavior is a total irreversible loss of social credibility.
The fable is baked into our collective consciousness. You have the shepherd boy. He's stuck on a hillside watching sheep.
He's bored.
He's profoundly bored, and he feels entirely insignificant, so he screams, "Wolf! Wolf!" down into the valley.
And the village panics.
The villagers immediately drop their plows, they grab their weapons, they sprint up the hill with their hearts pounding in their chests, completely prepared for a life-or-death battle to save this child.
A huge expenditure of energy.
Massive. And when they get there, the boy is just laughing at them. He weaponized their empathy.
That's a great way to put it.
And he does it again and again, until finally the real, actual predator steps out of the tree line. The boy screams for his life, but down in the village, everyone just keeps eating their dinner.
The social contract is broken.
Completely shattered.
This raises an important question, psychologically speaking. Why did the boy do it in the first place? And why do people in modern air-conditioned offices do the exact same thing today?
We all know someone like this.
Think about that dramatic colleague we all know. The one who constantly calls the IT department in a total panic, screaming that their computer screen froze.
Acting like it's a catastrophic company-ending data breach.
Exactly. Why do adult human beings manufacture this artificial trauma?
I think it all comes down to the currency of human attention.
Absolutely. It is about power, and it is about validation.
Yeah.
The shepherd boy felt invisible on that lonely hill. That dramatic colleague feels totally invisible and unimportant in their beige cubicle.
So they create a crisis.
By pressing the panic button, by crying wolf, they suddenly become the gravitational center of the universe. They get to watch other human beings expend physical energy, adrenaline, and precious time rushing to their rescue.
It's an ego trip.
For one brief, intoxicating moment, their manufactured crisis makes them the most important person in the village.
But the cost of that intoxication is catastrophic. If you are listening to this right now, I guarantee you can picture the exact person in your life who cries wolf.
Oh, everyone has one.
Maybe it's that friend where every single minor argument with their partner is suddenly the absolute end of the relationship.
And they call you at 2 a.m. sobbing.
Right. Or maybe it's a coworker where every minor typo on a slide deck is treated like a 5-alarm fire.
Yep.
The very first time they panic, you rally. You give them your deep empathy, your time, your emotional bandwidth. The second time, you help, but you're a bit frustrated.
Hey, by the 10th time.
By the 10th time, you experience total physiological compassion fatigue. You just go numb to their voice.
Right. You don't even look up from your desk.
Exactly.
And that is the terrifying tragedy embedded in this idiom. When that colleague's hard drive actually suffers a catastrophic failure, when they truly lose a year's worth of crucial work, their screams will be met with absolute silence.
Because they used it all up.
The boy was eaten by the wolf. Human trust is not an infinite well. It is a finite resource. It is a battery.
That's a scary thought.
And every single time someone cries wolf just to feel important, they drain a massive amount of that battery. Eventually, the battery is dead, and no amount of genuine terror or screaming will recharge it.
It's a profound warning about how fragile our social networks really are. And dealing with these chronic drama creators, these wolves in sheep's clothing, naturally forces us into the next major phase of human interaction, which is navigating conflict and human flaws. Because once you've been burned by someone who cries wolf, or you've been manipulated by someone trying to sell you a scam when you smelled a rat, your relationship with that human being is permanently, fundamentally altered.
The illusion is gone.
You now fully recognize their deep flaws. And that recognition forces a massive, deeply uncomfortable choice upon you. Do you engage in the brutal fight to try and fix them? Or do you accept that some things just are the way they are?
It is the ultimate, inescapable dilemma of interpersonal relationships. Do we fight or do we yield?
Right.
And to guide us through this emotional minefield, we have two brilliant, arguably pessimistic, but highly realistic idioms. The first one advocates for a strategy of pure, calculated avoidance. Let sleeping dogs lie.
Let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
This means intentionally, purposefully ignoring a past conflict or a very delicate, volatile situation simply to avoid causing new trouble.
It's all about risk management.
The imagery here is fantastic and instantly relatable. Imagine a massive, muscular, historically aggressive guard dog. It's asleep on the living room floor.
Just resting.
Its chest is rising and falling. It looks entirely peaceful. You know for a fact that if you just quietly tiptoe around it, you can get to the kitchen, make your sandwich, and go about your day in perfect peace. But if your ego decides it wants to poke that dog with a stick just to see what happens or just to prove you are the boss, you are going to get viciously bitten.
It is a masterclass in risk assessment.
Mm-hmm.
In human terms, that sleeping dog is the explosive, unresolved argument you had with your sister-in-law 3 Thanksgivings ago.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
It's the slight, passive-aggressive insult a director made in a meeting last month that everyone else has seemingly moved past.
Yeah.
To let sleeping dogs lie is to consciously recognize that not every battle is worth fighting.
Yeah.
And not every emotional wound requires surgical reopening.
But hold on. I have to push back on this pretty hard.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because this philosophy completely contradicts the era we are living in right now. We live in an era of intense, ubiquitous therapy culture.
We do.
The modern mantra on every social media feed is radical transparency. We are told that if you have a problem, you must speak your truth. You must process the trauma.
Communicate.
You must pull people aside and have the difficult conversation to clear the air. So, from a modern psychological standpoint, isn't letting sleeping dogs lie just a cowardly form of emotional repression? Aren't we just sweeping toxic dirt under the rug until the floorboards rot?
That is exactly the tension between modern psychology and ancient wisdom.
Okay, unpack that.
Therapy culture values absolute, unvarnished transparency and the exhausting processing of every microaggression. But ancient wisdom, which is what these agrarian idioms represent, values survival, endurance, and communal harmony.
That makes sense.
Think about a brother and sister who had a truly terrible, relationship-shattering argument about money a year ago. It almost destroyed their family.
Tragic.
Today, they are finally at a family barbecue, eating a burger and having a polite conversation about the weather. He hasn't brought the money up. She hasn't brought it up. The idiom is screaming at them, do not bring it up.
Because bringing it up doesn't actually guarantee a resolution. We just delusionally think it will.
Exactly. Therapy culture assumes that talking always leads to healing. History and animal instinct tell us that poking an aggressive dog usually just results in a massive loss of blood.
Ouch.
It requires an immense amount of psychological restraint and maturity to hold your tongue when your ego desperately wants to win an old argument. It is not cowardice. It is recognizing that the emotional, relational cost of the conflict far outweighs the fleeting, narcissistic benefit of being proven right.
You walk past the sleeping guard dog because your ultimate goal is to get to the kitchen and live your life, not to prove you can win a fistfight with a Rottweiler.
Precisely.
You are choosing peace over vindication. But we have to admit, this avoidance strategy relies on a very dark underlying assumption.
What's that?
Why are we so deeply terrified of waking the dog? Because we know in our heart of hearts that the dog hasn't fundamentally changed.
Ah, yes.
If it wakes up, it will still be aggressive. Which brings us to one of the harshest, most pessimistic, but arguably most accurate proverbs in the entire English language.
A leopard cannot change its spots.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This idiom represents the entrenched belief that human beings cannot fundamentally change their true nature, their deep-seated habits, or their core moral character.
It's a heavy concept.
Just like a leopard is born with permanent, dark melanin spots biologically woven into its fur, that leopard can swim across a raging river, it can roll in the mud, it can try to hide its silhouette in the tall grass, but those spots are permanent.
They are?
They are genetic. They cannot be scrubbed away.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this idiom strikes at the very heart of the human condition. As a species, we are hopelessly addicted to the narrative of redemption.
We really are. We love a good comeback story.
We consume stories of transformation constantly. We desperately want to believe that the villain can become the hero, that the chronic liar can suddenly discover honesty, that the narcissist can learn empathy. We want to believe in the limitless plasticity of the human character.
We want to believe everyone is just one self-help book away from being a saint. But the leopard idiom violently slams the door on that romantic notion. Think about this classic scenario. A friend of yours is returning to a deeply toxic ex-partner.
Oh, no.
This person lied to your friend 3 separate times in the past. They destroyed her trust. But now they are back, standing in the rain with tears in their eyes, promising they have changed.
They went to therapy. They did the work.
Yes. They went to a silent retreat. They started meditating. They are a new person. And your friend, hoping against all historical evidence, takes them back. And you, standing on the sidelines, just sigh and think, a leopard cannot change its spots.
Because as an outside observer, you are recognizing biological and psychological reality.
So hard to watch.
Entrenched behavioral habits, personality disorders, core moral frameworks. These are not superficial traits that can be altered by a weekend retreat or a really good apology.
Yeah.
They're the spots on the fur. They are baked into the deep neurological pathways of that person's character.
Right.
To expect a toxic, habitual liar to suddenly become a pillar of absolute integrity is exactly as absurd as expecting a leopard to suddenly decide to turn into a golden retriever. It defies the laws of nature.
I want you, listening to this right now, to search your own history for a second. Think about a time in your life when you poured your absolute heart, your energy, and your faith into hoping someone would fundamentally change.
We've all been there.
Maybe it was a tyrannical boss who swore they would stop micromanaging the team after a bad performance review. Maybe it was a parent who promised they would finally stop criticizing your life choices.
Yeah.
You gave them a total blank slate, you forgave them, and within a week, the spots reappeared, the micromanaging returned in full force, the bitter criticism started up again at the dinner table.
It's devastating.
Coming to the realization that a leopard cannot change its spots is incredibly painful, yes. It feels like a defeat, but I would argue it is also the most liberating realization you can ever have.
Liberating because it shifts the locus of responsibility.
Exactly. Once you accept that the spots are completely permanent, you stop trying to scrub them off. You stop blaming yourself when they act exactly how they have always acted.
You stop feeling like you failed.
You stop setting yourself on fire to keep them warm.
You stop wasting your finite human energy trying to change the unchangeable.
And that concept, the massive, tragic, obsessive waste of human energy, is the perfect conceptual bridge to the next section of our deep dive.
I agree. Let's go there.
Because what happens when we refuse to accept the leopard spots? What happens when we stubbornly refuse to let the sleeping dogs lie and we insist on poking them anyway? We trap ourselves in a devastating internal psychological cycle.
We descend into the psychology of fixation and futility. We obsess over the things we cannot control, and we destroy our own peace of mind.
We really do.
And to illustrate this descent into madness, we have an idiom with an origin image that makes my skin physically crawl just thinking about it. The idiom is to have a bee in your bonnet.
A bee in your bonnet. This means to be obsessively fixated, intensely agitated, and constantly complaining about one specific, often minor issue to the point of total social isolation.
We really need to paint the picture of this origin because it is pure claustrophobic nightmare fuel.
It really is.
A bonnet is an old-fashioned, tight-fitting hat. It encompasses your entire head and ties tightly under your chin.
Right, there's no way out.
Now imagine you were putting this hat on and a live, massive, angry bee accidentally flies inside just as you tie the strings.
Horrifying.
Suddenly, trapped right against your ear canal is this frantic, buzzing, vibrating insect. It is terrifying. The noise, that aggressive, inescapable, low-frequency buzzing, is so loud and so physically close to your brain that you literally cannot process any other sensory information.
It consumes you entirely.
You cannot hold a conversation with your spouse. You cannot enjoy the sunshine on your face. Your entire universe violently narrows down to the panic of the bee.
It is the absolute perfect neurological metaphor for an obsessive, intrusive thought. When someone has a bee in their bonnet about an issue, that issue becomes the loud, inescapable buzzing inside their mind.
The brain gets completely stuck.
The prefrontal cortex gets hijacked. Think about a dad who complains every single day, without fail, about the neighbors parking their car slightly too close to the edge of his driveway.
Oh, we all know this guy. The neighbor's tire is maybe 3 inches over the invisible property line, and suddenly it's not a minor inconvenience. It is a profound insult to his honor. It is an act of war.
Right. And to any rational outside observer, it's a complete non-issue. Just turn your steering wheel a little to the left when you back out.
Exactly. Just drive around it.
But to the dad, it is the bee. He wakes up at 6 in the morning thinking about the angle of the neighbor's tire. He aggressively talks about it over his morning coffee.
He can't let it go.
He periodically peers out the living room blinds at noon to check the car's position. He brings it up again at dinner, completely unprompted.
It's exhausting.
The obsession renders him completely incapable of experiencing the joy in his own life, or engaging in a normal, reciprocal conversation about any other topic. The buzzing drowns out the entire rest of the world.
It severely isolates them. If you've ever tried to have a genuine conversation with someone who currently has a bee in their bonnet, you know very quickly that you aren't actually having a conversation.
You're just a prop.
You are just a captive audience to their fixation. You're just a sounding board for the buzzing. But let's escalate this.
Okay.
What happens when that obsessive buzzing collides with an immovable reality? What happens when you have a bee in your bonnet about an issue that has already been permanently, legally, or logically resolved?
That's where it gets really dark.
The dad wants the car moved. But what if the car is a rusting, broken-down hulk that has been abandoned, and the city has already explicitly told him they do not have the jurisdiction to tow it?
Then there is literally nothing he can do.
If he keeps screaming about it then, he crosses from mere obsession into our next idiom. He is engaging in the ultimate, darkest waste of human energy.
He is beating a dead horse.
To beat a dead horse. This means wasting time and emotional energy discussing an issue that is already entirely resolved or fundamentally impossible to change.
It is a remarkably macabre, grotesque idiom when you actually force yourself to think about it literally.
Very visceral again.
For centuries, a horse was the primary engine of human labor and transportation. It was the tractor, the car, the freight train.
It was everything.
If you were riding a horse or using it to pull a heavy plow and it was moving too lethargically, you might whip it or beat it to force it to run faster. That is the harsh, utilitarian reality of historical agrarian life.
Sure.
But if the horse collapses from exhaustion and dies in the dirt, the engine is gone. The journey is over. The biological mechanism for forward movement has ceased to exist.
It's done.
To stand over the corpse of that animal, weeping or screaming, and continue to strike it with a whip, I mean, it is an act of absolute madness. It produces zero forward momentum. It is a complete irrational expulsion of energy into a void.
So what does this all mean for us today? Obviously, we aren't standing in muddy fields with whips.
No, we aren't.
But I want you to think about the dynamics of your own workplace. Think about corporate culture. How many agonizingly long meetings have you sat in, you know exactly the ones I'm talking about, where a major project has officially failed?
Too many to count.
The client backed out and signed with a competitor. The budget has been completely drained. The deadline has passed, the project is dead, it has no pulse.
It's completely over.
But instead of accepting reality and moving on to the next initiative, the leadership team schedules a 3-hour postmortem that devolves into dissecting exactly whose fault it was, relitigating minor decisions from 6 months ago, and proposing alternative timelines for a project that absolutely does not exist anymore.
You are watching a team of highly educated, highly paid professionals in expensive suits standing around a mahogany conference table, collectively, aggressively beating a dead horse.
Exactly. But why do we do it? We consider ourselves rational creatures. Why do we spend 3 hours in that suffocating meeting instead of just going back to our desks and doing something productive?
We do it because of the profound psychology of denial and the human brain's desperate, clawing need for control.
Control always comes back to that.
We beat the dead horse because the physical act of swinging the whip makes us feel like we are still doing something. It creates the illusion of agency.
Wow.
Admitting the horse is dead means standing in the field and admitting ultimate failure. It means accepting total powerlessness over the outcome.
Which people hate doing.
As long as we are still arguing about the failed proposal, as long as we are generating new PowerPoint slides about why the board of directors should have voted yes instead of no, we can mentally pretend the game isn't actually over.
It's a coping mechanism.
It is an emotional coping mechanism for failure, but it is an incredibly destructive one because it anchors you to the past. It prevents you from dropping the whip, walking away, and finding a new living horse to ride into the future.
It is the sunk cost fallacy taken to a point of emotional extremity. Like, I've invested so much of my identity and energy into this argument, I literally cannot stop swinging the whip now, even though I know the argument is entirely pointless.
It's tragic, really.
And this leads us to the terrifying question of endurance. If you have a bee in your bonnet driving your irrational obsession, and if you completely refuse to accept reality, so you are endlessly beating a dead horse, if two incredibly stubborn people lock into this toxic dynamic together, how long will the argument actually last?
The animal kingdom provides the answer with an idiom that completely shifts our perception of temporal scale. They will argue until the cows come home.
Until the cows come home, meaning an action or a state of being will continue for a very, very long, almost indefinite amount of time.
Let's contrast the pacing of our metaphors here because it's brilliant.
Okay, let's look at the pacing.
We started this section with the bee in the bonnet. That is Fast, frantic, high-pitched, panic-inducing energy. It's a physiological sprint of obsession.
Very intense.
But until the cows come home is a marathon of sheer, grinding stubbornness.
I absolutely love the image this paints of bovine behavior. Anyone who has driven through the countryside on a road trip or who actually grew up near a dairy farm knows exactly what this looks like.
They are not in a rush.
Cows are not creatures in a hurry. They are notoriously aggressively slow. In the early morning, they wander out into these massive, sprawling pastures to graze. And when the sun starts to set, they don't look at their watches and sprint back to the barn.
They take their sweet time.
They take hours. They meander. They stop to chew their cud. They will stare blankly at a wooden fence post for 20 solid minutes for absolutely no discernible reason. The process of waiting for a herd of cows to independently decide to walk back to the barn is agonizingly slow. If you are standing there waiting for them, it feels like an eternity. Time dilates.
And that heavy, unbothered bovine lethargy perfectly captures the feeling of enduring an endless, unwinnable human conflict.
Give me an example.
Think about a wildly stubborn parent and a fiercely stubborn child. The child wants ice cream for breakfast.
Naturally.
The parent says no. The child throws themselves on the floor and starts wailing. The parent looks down and says, "You can cry until the cows come home. You are eating your oatmeal."
It is a statement of absolute, unbreakable attrition.
It is.
You are looking the other person in the eye and telling them, I recognize your stamina. I see how much energy you are putting into this tantrum, but my refusal to yield is going to outlast even the slowest, most meandering creatures on Earth. We are locked in a stalemate, and time has officially lost all meaning.
It summarizes the entire tragic arc of human fixation. We obsess with the panic of the bee, we exert futile, destructive energy like meeting the dead horse, and we prolong our own internal suffering until the cows come home.
What a picture.
It is a rather bleak, uncompromising portrait of how poorly we handle the things we cannot change.
It is incredibly bleak, but thankfully we are not going to leave you wallowing in the mud of the pasture.
No, we wouldn't do that.
We've spent a lot of time today looking at paranoia, wasted energy, toxic cycles, and stubbornness. We need to flip the script. Because the natural world doesn't just hold up a mirror to our deepest flaws.
It also gives us solutions.
It provides our absolute best, most aspirational metaphors for how to harness our energy, how to impose logical order on chaos, and how to genuinely thrive in our careers and our personal lives.
This brings us to the final major psychological theme of our deep dive. The drive for productivity and adaptability. We are moving from the destructive impulses of the mind to the highly constructive ones.
Exactly. Let's step away from the chaotic buzzing bees and the depressing dead horses. Let's say you want to do something incredible with your life. You want to launch a disruptive tech startup.
Great goal.
You want to plan a massive, flawless 300-guest wedding. You want to execute a highly complex 6-month backpacking trip across Southeast Asia. You cannot operate in a state of primal chaos.
They fail immediately.
You need order. You need to get your ducks in a row.
To get your ducks in a row, this means organizing your scattered tasks, handling all the minute logistical details, and becoming fully, fundamentally prepared before you initiate a major project or take a massive risk.
We usually portray nature as wild, untamed, and entirely chaotic. Survival of the fittest, red in tooth and claw. But this idiom highlights those rare, beautiful moments when nature finds profound, almost mathematical order.
It's quite lovely, actually.
Have you ever actually stopped to watch a mother duck leading her babies near a pond or across a park?
It is genuinely remarkable to witness. It's not a scattered, chaotic herd. It is a highly regimented, disciplined procession.
Right. The mother duck doesn't have a master's degree in project management.
She hasn't read any business books.
She isn't using a Gantt chart or a Kanban board or an Excel spreadsheet. But somehow, through pure, elegant instinct, she gets 5, 10, sometimes 15 tiny, unpredictable balls of fluff to walk directly behind her in a perfect, straight, highly organized line.
In total synchronicity.
Every single duckling is exactly where it is supposed to be, moving in exactly the same direction, at exactly the same speed, matching her cadence.
It is the ultimate biological blueprint for foundational organization. Think about a project manager at a construction firm who absolutely refuses to sign a massive multi-million-dollar client contract because they still need to finalize the raw materials budget and officially hire 2 more structural engineers.
That makes total sense.
That manager is refusing to walk toward the pond until the baby ducks, The budget, the personnel, the supply chain logistics are perfectly sequentially aligned behind them.
Because if you walk toward the water, if you launch the project, and your ducks are scattered all over the grass behind you, the predators are going to pick them off one by one.
The project will fail.
The project will bleed resources and fail before it even truly begins. I want to ask you, the listener, right now, what ducks are currently out of order in your own life?
Good question.
Are you trying to buy your first house, but your tax documents and bank statements are a chaotic mess shoved into 3 different shoe boxes?
Probably.
Are you trying to start a serious, life-changing fitness routine, but you haven't actually scheduled the time in your calendar or even bought the right running shoes? The psychological peace of mind that comes with getting your ducks in a row is immense.
It removes the anxiety.
You can't control what happens once you get in the water. The market might crash, it might rain on your wedding day, but you absolutely can control the alignment of your preparation before you jump in.
That preparation is the bedrock of confidence. Because once your logistical foundation is set, once all the ducks are perfectly in a row, it is time to execute.
Time for action.
And the very best managers, the most highly successful people in any field, don't just execute slowly and methodically. They execute with a ruthless, elegant, almost beautiful efficiency. Which brings us to a phrase that is the absolute staple of modern time management and productivity culture.
To kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, obviously, this is a metaphor about physics and trajectory. For the animal lovers out there, we aren't hurting actual birds.
Purely metaphorical. We are talking about achieving 2 separate goals or completing 2 entirely different burdensome tasks with a single, highly efficient action.
It's the holy grail of modern life. Synergy. We are all so profoundly busy. We are all starved for time, constantly fighting against the clock.
Constantly.
The beauty of this idiom is in its conceptual elegance. You have to go to the bank to deposit a physical check. That's a chore. But the grocery store is located right next to the bank.
So you combine them.
Instead of doing the bank run on a Tuesday afternoon and wasting gas on a separate grocery run on a Wednesday evening, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone by doing both on your Tuesday lunch break.
It's just smart.
Or, taking a more lifestyle-oriented example, you want to save money on your daily commute, and you also want to lose 10 pounds. So you start biking to work. One single physical action pedaling the bicycle achieves 2 entirely separate, highly valuable goals: financial savings and cardiovascular health. The psychology here is about maximizing the return on investment for your finite human energy. We spent 20 minutes earlier talking about beating a dead horse, which is the tragedy of expending maximum physical and emotional energy for absolutely 0 result.
The ultimate waste.
Killing 2 birds with 1 stone is the exact opposite end of the human spectrum. It is expending the absolute minimum required energy to generate a maximum multiplied result. It is the pinnacle of human resourcefulness and strategic thinking.
I love how gamified this makes daily life feel. When you start thinking this way, the world becomes a puzzle of efficiencies.
I do this constantly. I challenge you, listening right now, to find the 2 birds you can tackle today. Can you listen to a dense educational audiobook for your professional development while doing the mindless physical chore of folding the laundry?
Boom. 2 birds, 1 stone.
It feels incredibly satisfying to outsmart the rigid constraints of time. It gives you a dopamine hit of control.
It does. It gives us a profound sense of mastery over our environment. We feel like we have hacked the system. But, as with all things in nature and all things in human psychology, there is always a hidden trap waiting for the arrogant.
Yes. The trap of success.
You can have your ducks perfectly in a row. You could be an absolute master at killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You can build a highly efficient, successful life. But if you achieve that success, and then you arrogantly stop learning,
Oh boy.
if you stop adapting to the constantly shifting environment around you, you are doomed. You become the final, most tragic figure in our linguistic safari. You become a one-trick pony.
A one-trick pony. This is used as a gentle but deeply cutting insult for a person, a massive corporation, or any entity that is highly skilled in only one specific narrow area, but completely lacks versatility or depth.
Let's really examine the historical origin of this phrase, because it is deeply melancholic.
It's actually a bit sad.
Imagine a circus pony in the late 19th century. The trainer spends months, maybe years, painstakingly teaching this beautiful pony to do one incredibly impressive trick. Maybe it learns to rear up on his hind legs and walk in a perfect circle to the rhythm of a snare drum.
Okay, a great trick.
The circus comes to town, the tent is packed, the pony comes out, does the trick perfectly, and the crowd goes absolutely wild. They throw roses. The pony is the star of the show.
But then what happens?
Then the applause dies down. The next act comes out, and the pony goes back to its cramped stall. It doesn't know how to jump through flaming hoops. It hasn't been trained to carry a bareback rider. It doesn't have the strength to pull a heavy wagon out of the mud.
It only has the one skill.
If the audience eventually gets bored of that one specific trick, which audiences always do, or if the circus goes bankrupt and shuts down, that pony has absolutely zero utility. It is entirely dependent on an artificially controlled, highly specific environment that values its single, isolated skill.
And the translation of that imagery to the modern professional world is absolutely brutal. Think about a Silicon Valley tech company that makes billions of dollars on their very first app.
They capture the zeitgeist.
They hit the absolute jackpot. But they get comfortable. They never learn how to actually innovate beyond their original premise. Every single app they release after that first hit fails miserably because the market changed, consumer tastes evolved, the algorithm shifted.
But the company couldn't adapt.
But the company only knew how to execute that one specific code architecture. They were a corporate one-trick pony, and the market left them behind to starve.
Or think about it on an individual interpersonal level. Imagine a brilliant software coder. This guy can write code in a specific legacy language faster and cleaner than anyone else in the entire building. He's a technical rock star.
Sounds like a great employee.
But he has zero emotional intelligence. He cannot manage a team of junior developers without insulting them. He cannot communicate his ideas to the non-technical clients. And when a brand new coding language becomes the sudden industry standard overnight, he refuses to learn it.
He is the pony rearing up on its hind legs in an empty, abandoned circus tent. He is performing a trick no one is paying to see anymore.
Precisely. If we tie this all the way back to the very first theme we discussed an hour ago, the primal instinct of survival, this idiom reveals the absolute harshest truth of all.
What's that?
In the natural world and in the brutally competitive business world, a lack of adaptability is a death sentence. The circus pony is safe only as long as the artificial ecosystem of the circus exists to protect it.
Right.
But out in the wild demands relentless versatility. The wild demands that you know how to forage for new food, how to hide from new predators, how to run across different terrains, how to swim across unexpected rivers.
You get to be dynamic.
If you only have one trick in the wild, the predator wins.
Yeah.
Evolution favors the adaptable, not the specialized.
And that brings it all home for you. The fact that you are listening to this right now, the fact that you are actively seeking out complex C2 level vocabulary, analyzing the deep psychological roots of human communication, and trying to understand the nuances of how we interact proves that you are actively fighting against stagnation.
You are not a one-trick pony.
You are actively striving for intellectual versatility. You are ensuring that when the environment changes, when the corporate landscape shifts, or your personal life throws you a curveball, you have a whole diverse repertoire of conceptual tricks to rely on.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism against becoming obsolete. You are cultivating neuroplasticity by learning how to frame the world in different ways.
Wow. We have covered an incredible, massive amount of psychological ground today. Let's gently guide everyone out of this linguistic safari and just recap the incredible winding journey we've been on.
It's been quite a ride.
We started deep in the shadows, exploring the evolutionary biology of trusting our visceral gut instincts by smelling a rat. We analyzed the immense courage required to demand the empirical truth straight from the horse's mouth.
And we witnessed the tragic social burnout of crying wolf.
Exactly. From there, we moved into the dangerous complexities of human conflict. We analyzed the profound, calculated restraint required to suppress our egos and let sleeping dogs lie.
And we faced the harsh reality that a leopard cannot change its spots.
And then we spiraled down into the madness of wasted human energy. We felt the claustrophobic, paralyzing panic of having a bee in our bonnet. We questioned the macabre, desperate denial of beating a dead horse.
And we endured the endless stalemate of waiting until the cows come home.
And finally, we climbed out of that chaos. We found the elegant mathematical piece of getting our ducks in a row. We maximized our energy by killing two birds with one stone, and we pledged never to allow ourselves to arrogantly stagnate into a one-trick pony.
It is a stunning realization when you step back and look at the whole picture. The animal kingdom, with all its dirt and fur and feathers and mud, gives us the absolute perfect, most precise vocabulary to describe the most sophisticated, frustrating, and complex parts of human psychology.
It's so poetic.
When you master these idioms, you don't just sound like you have a good vocabulary. You sound deeply culturally resonant. You sound like someone who inherently understands the primal, invisible engines driving human behavior.
Because underneath our tailored modern suits and behind our glowing digital screens, we're still operating on those exact same primal engines. The hardware hasn't changed.
It really hasn't.
And that actually leads me to a final, slightly provocative thought I want to leave you with to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. We started this deep dive talking about how paradoxical it is that we describe the highly complex human mind using the language of farm animals. Our most profound, emotionally resonant linguistic tools come from a historical era when human beings interacted daily intimately with the natural world, with horses, cows, guard dogs, and barn rats.
It was an agrarian vocabulary developed to survive an agrarian world.
Exactly. But look at how we live now. We are increasingly rapidly moving into a world that is entirely digital, entirely synthetic, and almost entirely disconnected from the raw reality of nature.
We are losing that connection.
The next generation of children might never actually see a cow meander lazily across a pasture. They might never feel the hot breath of a horse or understand the panic of a trapped bee. So the philosophical question is this: what happens to the depth of human language when the natural world is completely removed from our daily physical experience?
That is a fascinating question.
Will we slowly be forced to invent new, sterile, algorithmic idioms to describe our heartbreak and our trust issues? Will we start saying someone has a glitch in their code instead of a bee in their bonnet?
Sad thought.
Or, by losing our physical connection to the animals that helped us build our language, will we ultimately lose our best, most visceral tools for understanding our own souls?
It's a haunting prospect. Can a metaphor about a microchip ever adequately capture the agonizing pain of a broken heart or the primal fear of being deceived? I highly doubt it.
Definitely something to think about the next time your internal smoke detector goes off. On behalf of both of us, we want to bid you a phenomenal morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are listening in the world. Keep your instincts sharp, don't poke the sleeping predators in your life, and above all, stay curious. Keep diving deep.